welcome to part 2 of the Safari West video. In the first part, obviously it was pretty much just a walking self-guided tour, except for the aviary at the end, because that was, like I said then, that normally comes at the end of the actual tour itself, the driving tour, the safari tour. But I thought I'd just put it in the first part, and because that was basically a part of the walking tour. Anyway, and that's the way my mind saw it. This one, however, is strictly the vehicle, the car drive up into the hills and looking at the hoofed animals up in there. And then, like I said, I believe I said in the first video, I'm going to put some still pictures at the end, just kind of thumb through them a little bit, and then that'll be it. And then we're done. So I hope you enjoyed the first one, and I have to assume if you did enjoy the first one, you came back for this. If not, take a look at the first one. Maybe maybe you'll find something there you enjoy. And again, I apologize for the quality of the sound and in some cases the picture quality. But I was new to these cameras, and I've never used them in that fashion before. So I tried to clean it up as best I could, and it still has issues. But anyway, I hope you find some part of it enjoyable. Thank you for watching these, and see you next time.
I'm good, but I just didn't want to step on a rock that was going to roll out behind me. It's kind of all like sideways.
Oh, you guys see the baby antelope up on the road? Alright, you guys. This white antelope that you see down here and all the way up the road, this is the Adax. This right here might be the ultimate desert-proof antelope. They're going to come from the Sahara Desert just like the Dama gazelle we looked at earlier. They're also going to control their body temperature through their horns. They also have that white fur that reflects the sunlight and helps keep them cool.
Is that silly?
Mm-hmm. That's so funny. This is the Watusi cattle that you are looking at here. The reason we wanted cattle with bigger horns is because back when these cattle were traded most frequently, they were the currency, and the only currency. You paid dowries for weddings for these, you paid for land with these, you paid for just about everything with these. And the bigger the set of horns in your cattle, well, the bigger your bank account was.
The horn's heavy.
Yes and no. They aren't nearly as
makes my
heavy
neck
as they
heavy.
look, but they are very heavy. Horns are not boned all the way through. There is a bone core, and that core is hollow. Through the center of that you have blood and marrow in the living animal. And then over the outside, what we're actually looking at is a keratin sheath over the whole horn.
I know you only have the one or two carnivores that you keep, but I know there's mountain lions everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Do you ever have a problem losing your stock to
You know, you'd think we would.
mountain lions?
And we do see mountain lions out on the perimeter of our property all the time, but we actually haven't had an incident with them and our animals since we've been open in 1993.
Really?
Throw this belt on the top.
You can go for it if you'd like.
Get over there.
All right, cool. Alrighty, any questions on the Watu sea cattle, guys? One looks like it's got a little demar in it.
Can they breed?
Why people do this, I don't know, because it's taking a stubborn animal and breeding another stubborn animal with it. Yeah, you want to go with the hillbutt? You like the zebra? Modeled after it for centuries. They are desert dwellers like the Dama gazelle as well as the Adax, but instead of coming from the Sahara or Sahel deserts. Was that for Kate or for Nate? So confusing. Sorry, train of thought, totally derailed. They come from the Kalahari. The Kalahari rather than the Sahara. Because of that, they're going to have more compact hooves because the area is much more rocky. Most of the Sahara Desert, we see the splayed hooves that are for dealing with sand. But my favorite thing about them is how they escape from predators. They use a region next door into the Namib Desert. That's because any given day out there gets between 160 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. The reason why the Gemsbok survive is they do that same sort of horn radiator action to cool their brain case. They can cool the temperature of their brain down to about 98 degrees, and it's actually okay that the rest of their body runs hot. In addition to that, the reason they don't die from dehydration out there is that this is one of the antelope of the world that have figured out how to dig for water. They will dig about 3 or 4 feet down with those front hooves until they find just enough moisture to prevent death from dehydration. And because of that, they can survive in the Namib Desert for up to 2 weeks. 2 weeks isn't very long, but it's longer than anything else can survive out there, and it's plenty of time for whatever chased them out there to either get too bored or too hungry to go hunting for something else. At that point, Gemsbok just wanders safely out of the out of the Namib and back into the Kalahari. And that's the story of the Gemsbok. Pretty cool, right? My favorite way to describe how dangerous Cape Buffalo is not to list statistics at you guys, thank goodness, but it's to describe how they would deal with something like a lion. Lion, they're going to get the herd running because once the herd is running, inevitably a slower one will fall behind. Maybe a baby. Once that baby has fallen behind, oh, hi ostriches. The lions are going to pounce, and the lion will be excited because it has its dinner. That is, until the Cape buffalo does something that most herd animals do not do. They all turn around and go back for the one left behind. Up next, did you see how his horns connect in the center of his forehead?
Yes.
That skull plate that they form, we call that the boss. And the boss is used for bashing. They'll start bashing that lion back and forth. Use those big old mustache-shaped horns to flip a full-grown lion up to 6 feet in the air. Slower one will fall behind. Maybe a baby. Once that baby has fallen behind, oh, hi ostriches. The lions are going to pounce, and the lion will be excited because it has its dinner. That is, until the Cape buffalo does something that most herd animals do not do. They all turn around and go back for the one left behind. Up next, did you see how his horns connect in the center of his forehead?
Yes.
That skull plate that they form, we call that the boss. And the boss is used for bashing. They'll start bashing that lion back and forth. Use those big old mustache-shaped horns to flip a full-grown lion up to 6 feet in the air. It will keep going like that until that lion gives up their baby safe and sound. This is one of the few. It will keep going like that until that lion gives up their baby safe and sound. This is one of the few animals on Earth that can actually rescue its baby's life from the jaws of a hungry lion.
Okay, this is obviously a young one here,
Yes.
and that's why this, I assume male here,
Yeah, this
kind of push him
wildebeest.
away.
Yeah, this is a much younger Cape buffalo. The older ones, nobody bosses them
Yeah,
around.
I didn't think.
Alrighty.
Huh.
Any questions about the ostrich, buffalo, or wildebeest? We got pretty lucky right down here in this corner, guys. That's a lot of interspecies interaction. Alright, guys. Let's see if we can find anything else up here. more picture. We got it right. We're gonna show everybody that we got a great spot right.
Okay, so that's it for the driving tour part, and all we have left are some pictures I'll tag at the end of this. Before we get to that, though, I just wanted to comment briefly as I can on the question of people may have, how does this compare to a true African safari? Well, you know, you're missing a lot. You know, a lot of the animals aren't even on the property, and so you just have to accept that. But for the animals it has, and for the way they run it, the best I can tell you, and again, I've never been there, but my daughter, when she graduated college, she worked in South Africa for a few months with baboons, and while she was there, she did happen to go on a safari at Kruger, and according to her, this is very similar to that. Obviously, you don't have the elephants and stuff again, but the way they run it is pretty similar as far as the vehicles and the driving around and looking for what's there and having a guide explain stuff to you about the animals that you do find. So based on what she said, it was pretty close. So I'll take her at her word. The only other thing, if you go online and if you go to a site called what is it called? Wildlife Safari. It's a YouTube site, and they do live telecasts from South Africa every day, 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours at night. So it's 6 hours a day. They have live broadcasts from Africa as the guides take you out and they drive around to find what they can find. Now you're going to get better animals and more knowledgeable people on that and all that kind of stuff. But it kind of gives you a feel for what it might be like to drive around in Africa if you watch that program. And sometimes their cameras will catch other vehicles driving around with tourists on them, and those vehicles look very similar to what was at Safari West. So with those two things in mind, I think they do a pretty good job at Safari West to duplicate within reason what you might find in Africa on a safari. Now the only other thing I have to say is for family that are watching this, if you will just go ahead and go to the end, and when you get to the little cat, if you just hang around a little bit, there's a little bit on the tail end of this that might interest my family more than anybody else, and it's really short. So again, if you're anybody can look at it, but if you're a family, you might find it interesting, a little interesting. It's maybe cute. So anyway, thank you for watching. Enjoy the pictures and come back and either for woodworking or for something like this. I hope to do a little more of these, maybe on a shorter format. I get it. Maybe I can actually hold the camera steady at some point. So again, thank you, and see you next time around.
We'll take a bite.
Let's go, Papa.
You blow kisses?
You know, you're in the running for one of the cute ones. You know that?